The Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Buddy Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. We're going to do a full studio edition, but on the ground here in Oklahoma City with old friend Josue Pavon.
What's up, guys?
Noa Dalzell alongside as well. And we just watched one of the more exhilarating games of the year, and we expected it to be that, Josue. 105-92, the Thunder make a statement and hold the Celtics to 12 points in the fourth quarter. And I turned to Noah right after, and I'm like, a lot of people are going to watch this game, 15 straight for the Thunder, and say they're the new favorite here. And I'm not going that far, but if you want to go there after this game, I wouldn't blame you. That team down Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso right now looks special and like a matchup problem for Boston if the finals that we all think are going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just think that the biggest takeaway, and we talked about it during the postgame show, is just their depth and obviously their commitment to defense. I mean, this is, if it was an argument before, I think it's over now. Like, this is the best defense in the NBA. I mean, they've been that, but to do it against the Celtics and the way they limit them in that fourth quarter, I mean, I haven't seen that happen all year. I mean, like, that's the type of winning basketball that I feel like the Celtics are kind of blindsided. You know, I just think they didn't anticipate that, especially when you talk about like the guards playing big, the athleticism, guys like Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe hitting big shots. I mean, it wasn't just Dort. Man, Dort went off in that last 90 seconds. It wasn't just SGA. It wasn't just Jalen Williams. And we talked about on the show. I mean, he had a good game, but it's not the type of game that we've seen all season long. It's probably one of his weaker ones, if I'm being honest. And they still won, and they won by double figures. So I think that's the biggest takeaway in the sense of their depth, the defense, and the fact that, I mean, they're really starting to create that gap, or trying to, with this big 15-game winning streak where they're going to be the number one team in the West for a long time.
What do you think, Noah? Are they the favorite now?
They're not my favorite, but I wouldn't be. I think it's fair to say that,
So the Celtics?
If I had to pick a team right now to win the championship, I would pick the Celtics, yes. That being said, I mean, they put together the type of performance that deserves all the power rankings to put them first and the betting markets or whatever. I think people should respect this team. I think this team is still very disrespected for what they did last year. I mean, somebody tweeted this out today, but this was a rematch between the two number one seeds of last year's NBA, and this was not on national television. It got flexed onto NBA TV, and I don't know why people don't think this Thunder team, or why they're not elevating this Thunder team to like national prominence, because they're fun to watch. They have good personalities. They have stars. They have everything you could ask for. The crowd here is incredible. Might be the best crowd I've experienced in a regular season NBA game.
Same.
And so, yeah, I don't really understand why they're not more widely respected. That being said, I'm not going to take this one game where the Celtics offense sputtered in a way that I haven't seen in a very long time and say like that I would pick Oklahoma City in a series.
The Thunder do that, though. This is a special defense, maybe an all-time defense, depending on what they do the rest of the way. And we still haven't even seen Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein team up. And Hartenstein, he's been all the difference for this team last year. They get dominated on the boards last year against Dallas in that second round. They go out and get him. He blocks 4 shots in this game. He's dunking on Derek White in transition after a big stop by SGA the other way. So they attack, and they force almost 19 turnovers a game. Celtics did a good job handling it in the first half, but then it completely went awry in the fourth quarter. And once they're full strength, I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show, they have a counter for almost everyone the Celtics have. Like, Caruso's their Holiday, Chet's their Porzingis, they have Hartenstein for Horford, and SGA and Tatum in that MVP battle today. It was all Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, definitely. And I do feel like there's something to that, like Noah said, the fact that you don't see them on national TV. They didn't play on Christmas. I mean, Mark Daigneault doesn't talk about that much. He just want to focus on that because he just wants to focus on the night to night and just developing overall as a team. But he says that the players talk about it, and it's something that they kind of, have a chip on their shoulder about, because they've been doing this, like Noah said, like starting like last year, they sort of made that leap. And obviously the way they started this year, it's been historic. This is the biggest, longest winning streak in franchise history. So obviously there's some significance in that. But even then, I feel like they still don't get that sort of like that pass in the sense that they do have a legitimate chance of winning the finals, or at least getting there, And I think people are going to start having that conversation. But after the 15-game winning streak, right? It kind of took them for them to do this, for that to kind of start. And I think beating the champion Celtics here on their floor, again, to overcome a double-digit deficit the way they did, I think that's going to really start getting the conversation going. But they're just focused on a game-to-game, who's in front of them. But at the same time, I just feel like they carry that chip on the shoulder.
One thing I'll give you, Noah, they got to get through the West. You look at it right now, Warriors are 8. That wouldn't be an easy series. Dallas again. I think Dallas would have a shot at beating them. And then you're talking about some of the other top tier teams out there like Memphis. That would not be easy by any means, but they're starting to separate themselves, not only from the West, but they're 5.5 games over the Celtics right now if you're talking about home court if it came to a final series like that. So I'm starting to become more and more confident that the Thunder are going to get out of the West, barring health, obviously, fairly easily.
Yeah, and I know people are going to point to their inexperience as, you know, their biggest challenge here, and I do think there's validity to that. You know, we saw with this Celtics team how many years it took, but we've also seen teams like the 2015 Warriors that were able to kind of, the first deep run resulted in a championship. And so sometimes you don't need, 5 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, or, some teams do need it and some teams don't. And SGA, I think people don't realize he's 26 years old, right? He's Tatum's age. And so he's not like a 21-year-old breakout star. I think
Hartenstein's a bit of a veteran.
Yeah, so I think, this team and Caruso brings some of that championship pedigree as well. So I don't view this team as like the same way that I think some people do, where they're just a bunch of young guys that are having fun out there, and maybe the post-game shenanigans and all that maybe makes people think that. But
that's not shenanigans.
I love it. I don't know. I love the post-game stuff.
No, I know.
Let me be so clear what I mean by that. I love it.
I think it because of what James Harden said something.
Like, people hate fun, Josue.
To hear it from the veterans, people agree with it because they're like, oh yeah, he's right. He's been in the league a long time. So
I think Draymond Green was the one that was.
Oh, Draymond. Yeah, it was Draymond.
Yeah, Draymond just, people, I mean, it's awesome to see. I was actually like, when we were sitting here watching it.
I don't think it's a sign of like immaturity.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a certain element of the people just view them as like kids, it may be in a lovable way.
Well, people forget. I mean, Jalen Williams is funny. Last week he got a question from one of these reporters, and they were like, with you being a veteran, he was like, I'm a veteran? Like he's in his third year. People forget that, how young he is. And, you ask me, he's an all-star. He's going to make his first all-star team this year for sure. And I think that a lot of times people forget that because they sort of just, put him on this pedestal in a way that it's like, yeah, you guys are still young, but you're talented enough, to go on a deep playoff run. And all of a sudden you forget the fact that he's only in his third season.
Well, they are going to have expectations this year, and that's going to change everything. Last year it's house money. Even the cup, for whatever you think about it, they go out there and lay a bit of an egg in the championship game.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Like, when not to compare that to the NBA Finals, but like when something's on the line, when someone like Giannis really wants to win, and he kind of catapulted his team to kind of be on the same page. Damian Lillard had a really good game. That's why I wonder how this team's going to respond in a situation like that. If they do make it to the finals, let's say hypothetically, against the Celtics, I'm going to lean towards the Celtics, to be honest with you, because of that experience, because they've been there, because they had their hearts broken against the Warriors in 2022. Like the Thunder really haven't had that experience yet. Could have happened last year, maybe, in a sense, but it wasn't the Western Conference Finals, even though they do sort of have that, it's starting to kind of become a rivalry. But I think more of that has to do with the fact that, like, everyone looks at Luka as, like, the guy to go through in the Western Conference. So a lot of fans here are not a big fan of Luka. They call him a crybaby and all that stuff. It's very reminiscent of how Celtics fans used to feel about LeBron James when he was like that hurdle that the post big three couldn't get past, whether he was with Cleveland or in later days with Miami. But I just feel like there's that sort of chip on everyone's shoulder, whether it's the fan base and the Thunder as a whole, where a sense is like they don't get that recognition. They don't get to play on Christmas, but they're starting to change that narrative.
Celtics mostly shrugged off this loss. They didn't place too much importance on this one afterward, and the Thunder called it one of 82, but you could tell going into it and after they wanted this game, and they went out and got it. We'll get to some takeaways from the Celtics perspective. We're powered by Prize Picks. Go over there, pick more or less on 2 or more players' stat projections, and win many times your money over there. With the basketball season continuing and football and all the rest over there, Shea, a great pick for more points right now. He's always going to be scoring for the Thunder team, and plenty of other fun ones around the basketball world as well. I love Wembanyama's blocks, all that and more. And you'll get a $50 bonus when you play at $5 lineup. You don't even need a win to win the $50 bonus over there. So go check it out, Prize Picks, run your game. Takeaways for the Celtics here. They talked, I asked a couple guys about the lessons they learned from this one after. Here's what they had to say. So fast, they tries to force turnovers. And how did you guys want to play offensively in this one?
I mean, like we played in the first half, we were fine. I think once they turned it up a little bit, in the second, we played stupid, and we just gave some possessions away. And once you start giving up possessions like this, it's just downhill for us, and the rest of the time we're just battling uphill. Once they made that run, we were still up, I don't know, 4 or something, but the crowd was already into it. And then, they hit 1 or 2 more threes, and the momentum already like shifted pretty heavily, and we just kept on battling uphill, and the momentum was on their side. So it's not something like unsolvable, but just ugly second half from us offensively.
I think you look at the first half that we were able to put together, but at the same time, you have it to 13 and we give up 2 offensive rebounds at the end of the second quarter. Like, stuff like that keeps teams alive. And then just every possession matters, whether it's offense or defense. Just critical possessions that we have to be better on both sides of the ball, and we got to just continue to work at that. I think there's times where again, we have to fight for our spacing to give guys opportunities to score, and obviously if that happens, that's on me, that's on everybody, but we just got to be better offensively.
Now, it stumped a few guys. Like, what did we actually take from this? They've been through it. They've been in big games. So I don't think they look at this regular season game and say, oh, man, that's knocked us back on our feet right here. Tatum said they expected a lot of the stuff that the Thunder threw at them. But, no, it's these kind of teams that continue to challenge them, that can throw speed and physicality and get up and down the floor against them. And I felt like the Celtics managed that well for the first half. But then the second half, just too loose with the ball, not decisive enough in their decisions. Joe talked about spacing a ton out there, but the ball control, really, like, you could just see them hanging on for dear life, trying to hold on to the ball, even early when they weren't turning it over.
Yeah, honestly, I thought that, they were up by 10, I think, at the half. Joe mentioned they were up by 13, and then there was a couple offensive rebounds. They had an opportunity to actually build a little bit of a lead here.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do that. I think people were feeling good going into the half. Celtics fans kind of, already kind of celebrating this one. But a 10-point lead is nothing in the NBA,
that's
particularly
what
against
about, yeah,
particularly against this Thunder team that's obviously been, comfortable coming back from those types of deficits and just did so against New York. Yeah, but to me, this is the kind of team that it was their game today. Like, the Celtics played their game, and I felt like the second quarter maybe was an exception, but for most of this game, the Thunder controlled the physicality, the pace, and the Celtics are going to have to go back to the drawing board offensively. I think that when they go back and look at the film here, there's going to be a lot of things that they don't like. That being said, this is the same group that last year was a historically great offense, and there were moments against Minnesota last year when they were in Minneapolis that, it looked like they were totally discombobulated and that the Wolves were pushing them way out. They were starting everything way really far out, and just their spacing was awful against that really good Wolves defense. And I think they would have figured that one out in a series still. And so it's one thing to come out here in one game, and everybody talks about Houston's defense was good, the Wolves' defense was good. This is another level. This game was another level. I know Tatum said post game that he feels like this whole road trip has been that, but there was another level of intensity, and they're not going to want to say that post game. They're not going to say, they punched us a little bit or we didn't expect it. But to me, it's like I think they would.
That's what it looked like. Yeah,
it definitely looked like it.
What do you think of this year's Celtics team, Josue? This game, but also the season as a whole they've had so far.
Well, in this game, I just feel like because the shots were falling for them in a big way in that first half, they got a little comfortable, I feel like, in the second half. But then you look at the way Porzingis was providing problems.
Second quarter, he was huge.
Right, and I feel like the way the Thunder adjusted was big with the switches, the size advantage that the Celtics had. It didn't show as much in the second half, because I think a lot of the times it was the big defensive stops, whether it was, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort. Obviously he hit those big shots down the stretch, but to set that up, they had to string together those stops. And a lot of the times they were able to get into the paint, but they were, knocked off a little bit. I thought SGA had like 2 back-to-back plays where it looked like it was going to go in like easy, not necessarily the layup, but that little floater where he gets going. Isaiah Hartenstein missed a couple of those, but they didn't let that like bother them, and I feel like they really hung with it in the sense of like, just sticking to defense, and then with the switches, it didn't really matter as much. But that's the way they like to play, run up and down the floor. I think a lot of times when the Celtics would slow things down, it would work in their favor. But they made sure that it didn't happen.
Absolutely,
in the fourth quarter. That was big.
That was the power of Porzingis. They got to the free throw line early as well, and those are the keys that the Celtics have against them. They're going to be the better 3-point shooting team against the Thunder. Not tonight, but more nights than not. Definitely. And that's something that the Thunder can't quite match when the Celtics are at their best. The free throw shooting, big advantage there as well. And normally the Celtics are so good at controlling those turnovers, but that fell apart in this game, and they lose to the Thunder. I did have one big revelation, though, regarding the Celtics that I've been thinking about for a while now, but stood out in this game. I want to shout out Game Time first, who had $42 seats to this game I saw looking in. So if you were down here in Oklahoma City or a Celtics fan in the area, this is a great one to travel to. I know a lot of people always come up from Dallas and other things. Yeah, so go over there. whether you're in Denver for the next game or back in Boston on Friday when the Celtics are going to have a nice little homestand coming up, use the code CLNS, get $20 off your first purchase over there. You'll get panoramic views of your seats, always flash and zone deals going on over there, as well as upfront pricing that lets you know exactly what you're going to pay. Use that code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase over there. Terms apply. So we teased it in the show, but this one stood out to me because the biggest revelation from the game for the Celtics standpoint is how ineffective their bench played against Oklahoma City's here. Peyton Pritchard limited to 10 minutes. Sam Hauser mostly ineffective. I thought Luke Cornett had some good moments, but you don't want to play that big against a team this small. You'd like to be able to match up and go small against a team like that. And the Celtics aren't able to, just because of their depth and lineups and who they have. A fully healthy roster even, not able to match up with the Thunder's wing-heavy attack. So I felt for a while they could just use one more wing. And I'm not talking about Jimmy Butler coming in here or one of the best bench
Can you
wings
imagine?
in the
Mid-season Jimmy Butler trade?
best
Johnson,
wings in the
maybe?
league. I mean, even that's way too expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to Lonnie Walker return. I think he could have helped in a game like this. I'm not opposed to an O'Shea return if Jordan Walsh doesn't pan out over this next month here. And they should give him every opportunity, but we're about a month from the deadline. Maybe they don't have the flexibility to make a move. Maybe they don't want to move anyone on this roster. But they have one open roster spot, and I think they need to get a ninth man who, if Hauser's not right or can't play, or they go up against a team like this that's playing four wings, you have someone out there that can allow you to play small. And is it O'Shea? Is it Lonnie? Is it someone else that we're not thinking of? I think that's going to be the key of the next month here for the Celtics, Noah.
Yeah, and they're probably going to do some marginal move heading into the trade deadline. I would imagine it's something as seismic as like the Xavier Tillman, Jaden Springer trades, which didn't have much of an
Xavier
impact on
helped,
this
though.
team.
Or like a
Yeah,
buyout
Xavier
market type of player, yeah.
Yeah, Xavier had some moments for sure, but I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think they're going to spend big. I don't think they're going to grab somebody that's going to be the difference in a series against Oklahoma City. Ultimately, that being said, there are guys that heading into this year, like Xavier Tillman's probably the best example. We all thought that he was going to have a bigger role than he's ended up having, and so they might look and see, is there somebody that can play the role that
John
was
Conchar,
intended
go back to
for
Memphis?
him? Yeah, and he's clearly on the trading block. I think it was confirmed or reported that he was on, part of that.
Here's a name I liked
right.
last year too. I don't know if
Yeah,
the
I think you
Thunder.
mentioned him last year.
I don't know if the Thunder are going to be super active, Josue, but they're in this position. I think I counted 9 first-round picks over the next 4 years, 15 second-rounders.
They gotta
You
do
can't draft that
something.
many guys. I don't know if they're going to go and get Jimmy Butler, but they can make a splash anytime they want.
Yeah, I think there's something to that Cam Johnson thing. I know a lot of Thunder fans out here, they don't want to hear that because...
Oh, they don't want it?
You're breaking up the team a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, because of, to match contracts, you have to match him with like a Dang and either like a Wiggins or someone like that. Someone who's been here for a bit, and I think that people are afraid to
They
break
don't want
up
to mess
the-
with this
they don't
team.
wanna
And I
mess with
think
the
they're
team,
right to be
yeah.
afraid because you've won 15 games in a row and you're the number
Right.
one team in the West. And
Right.
why, you haven't given this much time. This is your first year with Hardesty and Caruso. I would just stay put, honestly, if I was Oklahoma City.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens because, I mean, in terms of like the wing, like could you bring in a wing defender to help these guys? Yeah, I think that could help in a sense. I mean, people still
Johnson
talk
would be a
about
good fit.
how undersized this team is. Johnson would be a really good fit, especially because he's the
He'd be so happy also.
3-point shot. I mean, the fact that I know, right?
He's-
He'd be in a great situation.
He's trying to win.
What was he, 43% from 3? Like that would, he fit in perfectly, honestly. And I don't know. I think it's worth considering for sure. Just to sort of beefing up the bench going into the postseason, and you have so many other options. And plus, like with all the assets that you have, like you look at some of these players, especially someone like AJ Mitchell, who was injured today, but he's part of this rotation. He was drafted in the second round, and like a lot of times when that's mentioned to Diagonal, he's like, it doesn't matter. Like we draft players that fit the team. It doesn't matter if they're 12th, like or in the second round, because a lot of these guys they end up panning out, And I think a lot of the time when you look at the organization in that way, you're like, okay, well, whoever they draft in the future will fit in perfectly. Aaron Wiggins is another second round pick, and look what he's doing right now. So I think the value of those picks compared to other teams in the trade market would give them a big advantage compared to other teams. So if you're willing to do something like that, if you're willing to part ways with 2 or 3 of these guys, you can do it. Like it's not one of the matter of like you're up against another team and hoping that you have the better offer. They have the better offer. Do they pull the trigger? We'll have to wait and see.
It's tough because they can win a championship now. You'd love to be patient and play this out forever. And you kind of have
Right.
to the way these rosters get expensive, especially here in Oklahoma City. But
I'd be the worst GM. I would never trade like a homegrown, lovable player.
Man. But you look down, you look
the
like
Celtics would still have Aaron Nesmith. I wouldn't have touched anybody.
I mean, you look in the past though, like that trade when they traded Paul George and got SGA, it wasn't just SGA. You got a stack of picks, man, that turned into Jalen Williams, that turned into.
I know what a trade. Looking back on it,
it's insane. And like you almost look at the Clipper situation, like, man, what could have happened if they just didn't do that?
Didn't Doc say he knew Shea was going to?
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Shea.
Doc is the LeBron meme.
Doc went to the front office, was just like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Like, he was so like adamant, like, "This guy is a star." Like, okay, and
sure, Doc.
The rest is history, man. I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way that
Doc said he's going to be the next MVP. I know it. And Paul George is going to leave in 3 years because we didn't offer him enough money.
I mean, that's the myth, or that was the tale. It didn't come from Doc himself, but that's
it came from Doc himself.
That's the story. I mean, he probably put it out there himself, but he had other people telling the story, so it sounds a lot better.
Good catching up with our guy Josue.
Oh yeah, always, guys, man.
It was an honor and a pleasure.
We're gonna have
enjoying
fun.
Oklahoma City?
We're going out to OKC tonight, guys. Yeah, I'm loving it out here, man. It's different. It's nothing like Boston, I'll be honest, but I like it. You know, I'm just working, man. People are always like, "Oh, you going out? Like, what's it like?" I'm just like, "Not really, but we'll see." You know, maybe later on.
Here today.
What do you miss the most about Boston?
What I miss the most about Boston? Man, that's a good question.
You don't have to say us.
Honestly, just like, I don't know. I guess the day to day. I guess it is you guys, to be honest. Like, I was just telling Bobby, we were joking around before the game. I was just like, man, I miss this, man. We would just make up these crazy hypothetical stuff, and going out afterwards, and we don't
Imagine
even go
if I said,
out.
"What's up to Tatum?" Right now?
I know, right? So Tatum's shooting around. I'm just like, how funny would it be? I'm just like, Tatum, like just like mid.
Remember me?
Yo, how's it going? But no, man, just like even we don't even go out like that. We just like grab a bite to eat after games and stuff like that. I guess that would probably be it. Like, whether it was in Boston or on the road, man, that was always fun.
Josue, CLNS legend, Garden Report forever. Noa Dalzell here as well out in Oklahoma City. We're on to Denver, so we're about to go see Jokic and those guys. So we're going to give them another push. So that's coming up on Tuesday, but for now, Celtics lose to the Thunder in a thrilling game. They're going to play again in March. I'm sure Josue will try to go back out to Boston for that one, for the rematch. And then who knows, we might be here beginning of June for a game one. 5.5 game lead for the Thunder now over the Celtics in the standings. So a whole different dynamic this year for both teams. Thunder win their 15th straight. Josue has their coverage for Clutch Point, so go check out his writing over there, and you know where to find him on Twitter. Noa Dalzell, of course, for Celtics blog, and Bobby Manning, CLNS Media, and the Garden Report. We are done here from Oklahoma City, and we'll see you in Denver on Tuesday. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.